Order the special meeting of the Enfield Board of Education on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 at 5 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kathy, can I have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Acree?
Here.
Dr. Kalnin?
Here.
Mrs. Cushman?
Here.
Mr. Janitis?
Here.
Mr. Kober?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Mrs. Pickett?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Chairwoman Riley?
Here. Okay, item 4, discussion and action regarding the appointment of superintendent of schools. Okay, so I'd like to put a motion on the floor to hire Stephen Macchio as the new superintendent for Enfield Public Schools. The past couple of months, we have been going through a hiring process to fill the superintendent vacancy. We've had a community survey, we posted the position, we thinned out the field from 12 to 6. Along the way, one got a superintendent job at a different district during the process. So the search committee interviewed 5 candidates initially and lowered the field to a final 3. These past 2 weeks, the full board then did round 2 of interviews. And last night, we all deliberated on the candidates. We definitely have not taken this decision lightly, and the finalists were all excellent candidates. It was definitely not an easy decision. However, there can only be one, and we have chosen Stephen Macchio. He comes to us as the current superintendent since 2014 of Stafford Public Schools. In his 20-year educational career, he has also been the principal of Suffield High School, the principal of Windermere Elementary/Intermediate School, and assistant principal of Ellington High School, vice principal of academic affairs of West Springfield Public Schools, and a physics and science teacher in Newington and Windsor Public Schools. He has many, many accomplishments and experience under his belt. He led the school in Windermere to a school of distinction. He developed school-wide intervention teams. He has been through large building renovation projects, developed and implemented district improvement plans. He promoted high student achievement, leading to a 98% graduation rate in Stafford in '23. He manages the budget year-round and prepares budgets for their town-wide budget referendums. If I listed all of his experience and accomplishments, we would be here for a very long time. Throughout the interview process, he has stood out from the rest as a proven leader that is ready to go on day one. He is very detail-oriented and loves himself a good spreadsheet. He has a strong background in budgeting and financial management with a track record of maximizing resources to achieve strategic objectives while maintaining financial management. While he was explaining to us his budgeting process and strategic planning process, as well as his dedication to student success and his daily involvement through his district, visiting schools and attending events district-wide, it was clear that this was the candidate that Enfield Public Schools was in need of. Even the community survey's #1 want for the next superintendent was that the candidate be a current superintendent. It's my personal belief that as we are going through this large transition now, he will be able to step right in, start building relationships with all staff across the board, warmly welcome all students and parents, and begin to form a strategic plan to carry Enfield Public Schools through the next few years immediately and propel the district to success over the long term. He prides himself on transparency, facts, collaboration, sustainable progress, and meaningful change. I am excited for Enfield Public Schools and believe that Stephen Macchio will lead our district with integrity and steer the ship to successful outcomes for all. And I just really look forward to working with him. So can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Pickett. Discussion. You want to go?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think what Charlotte just read pertained, as far, in my opinion, to 2 of the candidates. And they're both excellent choices. They're both good choices. Steve is going to do, I think, a good job, but I think the other guy, Mr. Barrios, would have also done a good job. One thing that really bothers me more than anything else with this board is you have somebody that spent 6 years working at the hardest school that you can work in, got it through the pandemic, got it through Reconstruction, and this is the loyalty that a man gets for spending this time here, and he is qualified. He has his own 93. He knows the system. He could start tomorrow, whereas the new candidate, Steve, I'm not sure when he's going to start, probably maybe October, unless he can get released early. One of the things that a lot of people were complaining about is Andrew's lack of experience. Everybody has to start someplace. He has a brother who just got appointed as a superintendent. So I'm sure if anything he didn't know, one of the first people he was going to go and talk to is his brother. I'm very disappointed in the choice that we made and the way we ended up coming about with that choice. And it has, believe me, nothing to do against Steve, but I will not be voting for him.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anybody else like to go? Ms. Pickett?
I would like to share that this process has been challenging because we've been undergoing so many changes at the same time as trying to onboard and look for a new leader. So I want to publicly thank everybody who put their name in the ring and who was willing to apply and step up for Enfield. I thank all the candidates for that. I thank those who interviewed with us. That was a rigorous interview. I want to thank Charlotte for your leadership, and Andy, he's not here tonight, but really leading a process that was clear. Unlike Peter's comments, I think that we had a clear process. We had healthy debate. And I think there was pieces of what Steve can bring to our district around instructional leadership, building systems and structures of support, around his experience in budgeting, resourcing, just the experience level, and his K through 12 experience. Steve has had experience at all levels of across the district, and I think that perspective is also incredibly valuable. So this was a hard decision. I think we worked hard at community involvement in this decision. I think it's challenging as you're interviewing candidates who obviously may not want their identity known. It's hard to bring in outside people in that process. But through our survey, through the questions that we asked, I think we worked really hard to think about the multiple perspectives in this process as well. So my hope is that we open Steve with open arms. We look at his leadership style and structures and experience. And I also think he valued in his interview the experience and talent that we have in this district and wanting to learn from others. So I encourage our staff and our leaders and our administrators to share their wealth of knowledge and experience because he made it clear that he is open to building joint leadership. It's not about him solely as a superintendent. So thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Mr. Ryder.
So first, I want to thank everybody at Enfield Public Schools, all the parents and staff members and faculty and students that filled out our survey that we'd sent out, and we got a completed copy back in the middle of May. So this is something that we've had to work with since then, and I want to thank everybody who took the time to fill that out. I want to thank all the candidates that applied, even the ones that we didn't meet in person. We actually interviewed 6 people in person. We did 3 one night, then 2, and then another one. So we did 6 just in that 1 week.
Oh, I thought one got the job while we were, okay.
We
It's been a long process.
No, it has been. I just wanted people to know that we actually talked to even more people. Oh yeah, we've actually all been together pretty much every night for a month. I also want to thank and welcome Steve, and I look forward to working with him. But I also want to thank Mr. Drezek, our former superintendent, for his long tenured service here. Chris was very well respected and liked, and I am, again, happy for him and his family and where he ended up. But I would be remiss if I didn't once again thank Superintendent Drezek for all of his time here, as well as interim Superintendent, Mr. Longy. I want to thank him for everything that he's done for us in the last few months. And not just the last few months since Superintendent Drezek left, but for everything that Andy's done for this district. I look forward to getting started, and I will be supporting this candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Calnan.
I think we could not have lost no matter who we chose yesterday. I think all three of them were really, really exceptional candidates, and it was a real hard decision to make. I'm looking forward to Steve, particularly with respect to the development of a strategic plan, because these last 12 months in particular have been nothing but chaotic, and I think what we need emerging out of it is a plan of what can get us back to normal. So, and I also do want to thank Andy Longy for his excellent leadership in this entire process, and for our own leadership in our board for recruiting all of the candidates and making this process so orderly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Calnan. Anybody else? Ms. Cushman?
I just wanted to echo everyone's sentiments because it really has been a team effort in terms of discussions and the time invested in this process. And certainly what Peter brought to the board tonight was truly part of what our discussion was last night. It wasn't an easy decision whatsoever. But some of the things that I want to mention that had not yet, I know Mr. Ryder had touched on this survey. In that survey for the stakeholders in our community regarding the position of superintendent, there was an overwhelming response that the ideal candidate would have experience as a superintendent. Mr. Macchio, currently working for the past 6 years as a superintendent in the Stafford School District, was the only candidate with such experience. And his responses to our interview questions were thorough and decisive. He picked up on details that others missed, and it reflected really his valuable knowledge that he has gained in his experience as a superintendent. And regarding the budgeting and financial management, Mr. Macchio has wisely led his current district so as to avoid that fiscal cliff that we often hear about that is plaguing so many districts as the federal COVID-related funds have dried up. He has led his current district with great detail and transparency in budget preparation and presentation, and I certainly look forward to working with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Go ahead, Ms. Blank.
I'd like to say that I'm supporting Steve Macchio this evening, along with his accomplishments and his responses to the scenarios that were presented, which were very tough, I thought. And the additional details he brought, it always came back down to supporting the staff and the students. And we're in the business of kids, and that's a really important focus. And we're at a turning point in our district where we are going to be rebuilding and having a fresh set of eyes and new ideas, and just looking at some of the things and accomplishments, like implementing a district improvement plan that focus on strategic imperatives and then breaking them down into both short-term and long-term goals. Talking about the portrait of a graduate and what that means, and not thinking every school district is the exact same snapshot. Having the forefront to think about how they could come in and work to improve Enfield or help Enfield, realizing that our staff is really going through some tough times with the 150 layoffs and a lot of restructuring, and still the uncertainty that we're having in our district. I liked his idea of budgeting. I liked that he had experience with both the state legislation and his experience with special ed legislation as well. So I am supporting Steve Macchio. I will take a moment to thank interim Superintendent Longy. Besides having to get together with his team and look at cuts and jobs, he was the forefront in helping us with this search. And it really, if you see Mr. Longi, please thank him. So he's really led us in a good direction, and he's honest, and he's very forward. So I appreciate that. So thank you to Mr. Longi, and that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Luck. Anybody else? Ms. A. Crate?
Yes, good evening. I'd like to welcome Mr. Macchio to our district. Even though all three candidates were excellent, I was impressed by Mr. Macchio's experience in education, budgeting, his experience in administration, being a superintendent presently. I also like the fact that he stated at some point that he worked in Windsor and he was taught diversity and culture, and I thought that would be a great plus for our district, the fact that he is open and comfortable in working with different cultures and people of all walks of life. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Macchio. I would also like to thank Mr. Longi for all his hard work and the hard work of our team up here. Thank you.
Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll be brief. Obviously, I was not on the search committee for the initial selection process, but I do want to recognize the work they did and the several meetings back-to-back and the interviews they did. I'm glad that we were able to conduct this search without having to hire an outside firm. I think our interim superintendent did a good job basically acting as a consultant for us. The search committee doing the first round of interviews of semifinalists, and then the full board having the opportunity to interview the final three candidates and determine the top candidate. So as several of the members mentioned, I think they all interviewed well. There's not one that had the majority decided a different way that those individuals would not have been successful. However, given some of the experience and some of the more detailed answers, Mr. Macchio edged out the competition, and if we quantified it, that we would have numerically scored him the highest as a candidate last night. Thus, he is a prospective nominee for the job. So, at this point, I look forward to working with him. I know, as we said, we have a lot of work to do going into the fall, and he's definitely the individual that we're going to need come the first day of school. So, I look forward to voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Okay, Kathy, can we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Acree,
Yes?
Dr. Calnan,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Janitis.
Andrew Barrios,
Yes or no, please?
no.
Mr. Kober,
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, sorry.
Go ahead. Mr. Ryder, go ahead.
We have one more motion. I would like to move that the board further authorizes Chairman Riley to finalize and execute an employment arrangement with our new superintendent of schools on behalf of the board to include a beginning date and a term of office.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Ryder, second by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion?
So this is just more of a question. I know, obviously procedurally, we will have one signatory for the contract, and of course, we'll have faith in the chair of executing that. Just to confirm, are we solely authorizing the chair as a negotiator for the board, or is this something that would be more appropriate maybe for like a committee, like leadership would negotiate the terms and then just having the chair possibly sign the final instrument?
That's a fair question. My motion was to authorize the chair to move forward with that.
Yeah, typically in past, it's been that the chair takes care of that portion of the business, basically.
Okay. I would just, throw out the idea that maybe if it was the entire leadership committee that did the negotiating, or at least possibly two or three members of leadership, I think maybe easier just to shift some of the workload off of the chair. I know there'll probably be a lot of back and forth going over, terms and paragraphs within that contract. So I would float that idea as maybe it might be better of either a two-person action or a possibly committee idea function.
I think my one reservation is I think it's important that the candidate has a point of contact of who they're negotiating with. I also think maybe it's talking about like what are some reasonable guardrails, if that's what we're like. I trust that Charlotte can knows budgetary where we're at and those types of things. So I guess
I would say,
what would be the purpose of a committee or
Right.
or that piece? Because I'm okay with Charlotte.
I could definitely bring it to leadership of where we're going with it, but I'll just be the main point of contact for it. But the leadership would be where, and I would, obviously, they would know what we're going to move forward with.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I'm definitely in favor of the one point of contact. I would just, of course, have more input, the better, I think, rather than just having the final contract.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring it back
yeah.
to leadership and have their input before we finalize that.
So you're talking about negotiating a contract with benefits and everything like that?
Yeah.
I think if you want to do the negotiation part, that's up to you. I'd rather see at least another person on there, and I wouldn't just leave it with leadership. I'd bring it back to the whole board to vote on it.
I don't think that's the way that it's gone in the past.
I don't care about the past.
Okay. Does anybody want to, go ahead, Ms. Lang.
I support you handling it. If you want to make it one more person, then I would recommend, there's one additional person, I would recommend Scott Ryder. He's the secretary of the board. But this is something, there's responsibilities of the chair, and I respect that responsibility would be yours.
Okay. All right. Let's vote.
Okay. Mrs. Acree,
Yes?
Dr. Kalman,
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman,
Yes.
Mr. Janitis,
No.
Mr. Kober,
Abstain.
Mrs. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Pickett,
Yes.
Mr. Ryder,
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, even though our new superintendent couldn't be with us physically here, he is on Teams. So welcome, Steve Macchio. Do you have any words for us this evening? From your very sunny place, wherever you are.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So first of all, good evening to everyone, and thank you for making the arrangements and allowing me to say a few words this evening. I am in a very sunny place. This is our family vacation, and we are out on a cruise. So right now they're all eating dinner, and I'm at a Board of Education meeting, so it's much like every other Board of Education meeting night for a superintendent of schools. I am deeply honored and very grateful for the opportunity to be the next superintendent of schools for the Enfield Public Schools. And before we go on, I just want to extend my gratitude to the members of the Enfield Board of Education, the leadership team that did the interviews, for entrusting me with this role. I also recognize and I appreciate many of the comments that were made regarding the leadership within the schools and making a decision as difficult as you had to make, understanding that you had an internal candidate. It is a vital role for us as superintendents of schools to continue to expand the possibilities for the leadership that we have within the buildings. So I look forward to being able to continue to do that with Dr. Barrios. And really, for me, schools are the heart of the community. And I think somebody had made some comments earlier about working together as partners, and that is absolutely what I want to do. I want to move forward with the schools and provide all of the kids, all of the students with the highest quality education that we possibly can. They all need to have the necessary skills to be successful in whatever it is that they decide to do in the future. The opportunity to listen and learn from the teachers, from the administrators, the parents, the community leaders, and I really think most importantly, we need to learn from the kids so I can obtain a more comprehensive understanding of really what they believe and everyone believes are the district's strengths as well as the challenges that lie ahead. It is running an educational system is really about collaboration, communication, transparency at the forefront when we're talking about budgeting, and really mutual respect for everybody in terms of moving the district forward. And if we all work together as a team, I believe firmly that we can do anything that we set our minds to. So again, very briefly, thank you for the opportunity and an opportunity to say a few words from a far distance away. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I do look forward to building a brighter future for all of the students. And really, first and foremost, I want to make the Enfield Public Schools that source of pride for the community, because you guys have gone through a very difficult time in the last few months, and we're gonna get past that and move past that together. So thank you, everybody. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Blank, second by Mr. Kober. All in favor, raise your hands. 9 in favor, none against. None against, we're adjourned.